The human arrived at the interstellar research station with the usual mix of curiosity and mild terror. Alien cultures were always fascinating to observe, but this station had a reputation for being unpredictable. He had expected some odd customs, strange rituals, and maybe a few harmless pranks, but nothing could have prepared him for the sight of her. She was small, and possibly delicate in appearance, and cute in a way that immediately made his brain short-circuit. Her skin shimmered faintly with a pearlescent glow, her eyes wide and impossibly expressive, and her multiple fingers fidgeted so fast it was a blur. She looked like a living hologram of nervous energy. And then she spoke. "Will you help me conceive?" Time froze. Every muscle in the human's body stiffened. His brain tried to process her words, but all it could manage was a stuttering, internal scream of pure panic. His mind immediately conjured every scenario from every ridiculous sci-fi movie he'd ever seen. None of them involved staying alive. He opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. Instead, he just flailed, arms waving in a desperate attempt to signal that perhaps she should retract that request before the universe filed a formal complaint against him for whatever it was she was asking. The alien girl tilted her head, blinking rapidly. A faint blush spread across her cheeks. Her fidgeting intensified. She clearly had not expected his reaction. "Oh, I see," she said softly. "You are alarmed. That is not the expected reaction. I apologize. I merely meant to participate in a cultural exchange project. Studying humans' reproduction for science." The human exhaled shakily, trying to remind himself that she had said the word science at least 3 times. Surely, that meant nothing terrifying was going to happen. But it didn't stop his internal panic from imagining elaborate rituals involving floating alien beds, glowing tubes, and some kind of interspecies mating chant. She continued undeterred by his obvious horror. "We have observed that humans have unique bonding mechanisms. I require observation of these mechanisms to complete my study. I believe you are ideal subject." He blinked. You want me to what?" he asked, voice cracking. She looked genuinely puzzled. "Observe. Study. Participate. Is this objectionable?" "Yes. Objectionable is the understatement of the millennium," he thought, frantically gesturing with his hands. Every motion seemed to make her more confused. Unfazed, she produced a small holographic device from her satchel and projected a floating diagram. The image shimmered in midair, 2 stick-figure humans connected by swirling lines, surrounded by hearts, stars, and what looked suspiciously like cartoonish genitalia that should not have been glowing. The human's face burned red, and he frantically waved his hands in protest. "No! No, no, no! That is not how humans do anything! You cannot put that, oh gods, take it down!" Meanwhile, a few other aliens in the room, perched at the edges of the observation chamber, covered their mouths to stifle giggles. The human couldn't tell if they were laughing at him, with him, or at the situation in general. Whatever it was, the sound made his anxiety spike. "I must study," the alien girl said calmly, as if this explained everything. She fidgeted again, tugging at the edge of her clothing and glancing shyly at him. "I require precise observation. It is important." He pinched the bridge of his nose, fighting for control over his rapidly fleeing dignity. "Okay," he said cautiously, choosing his words as though defusing a bomb. Let's clarify something. On Earth, human reproduction is a deeply personal and complicated process. It involves, emotions, privacy, and a lot of awkward social rules. You cannot just... she interrupted, eyes lighting up. Rules! Yes. I require detailed knowledge of these rules. That is exactly what I want to observe. Show me. Teach me. The human froze again. The words, show me, sent a shiver down his spine. He tried to maintain composure, but his arms flailed wildly, knocking over a holographic control panel. Sparks flew, tiny alarms beeped, and somewhere in the background, an alien observer squealed with laughter. The alien girl gasped, startled, and fidgeted even more, her multiple fingers twitching like frantic lightning. He took a deep breath and tried again. No! You don't actually do it with me. You just learn. Observe. Hypothetically. There's a difference. Please, just hypothetically. Her expression shifted from nervous to thoughtful. Hypothetical, yes. That is acceptable. Observation without direct participation. I can comply. Relief washed over him. He almost believed he had survived the encounter without any mortal embarrassment. Almost. Then she leaned slightly closer, eyes sparkling with curiosity. Although, if I may, perhaps subtle participation is informative. Not mandatory. Just illustrative. He groaned inwardly, knowing that subtle participation, in alien terms, could mean anything from a casual touch to, well, something much worse. His pulse raced as he imagined every possible scenario. But somewhere beneath the terror, a strange warmth began to creep in. She was so earnest, so nervous, so impossibly cute in her fidgeting, that it was disarming. Despite the chaos, he found himself smiling nervously, thinking maybe this wouldn't be entirely the worst encounter he'd ever had. And so, the stage was set: a cute, nervous alien girl, an overly panicked human, a floating hologram of questionable accuracy, and a room full of silently giggling observers. The first step of this cultural exchange had begun, and neither of them would leave the chamber without their dignity, or sanity, tested. The human had barely caught his breath when the alien girl began rummaging through her bag again, producing a small, glowing device that looked like a cross between a futuristic remote and a jellyfish. She waved it toward the floating holograms, which immediately began spinning faster, rearranging the stick-figure humans into positions he was certain no human had ever willingly attempted. His hands shot up instinctively, knocking a chair over in his panic. No! No, wait, stop! That's not what I meant! He shouted, pointing at the figures. The alien girl cocked her head and tilted her multicolored eyes at him, clearly puzzled. She leaned closer, her fingers twitching like a nervous conductor, and repeated, Not what you meant! But this is the standard human demonstration! He groaned. No! Absolutely not! Humans do not conduct themselves like some kind of cosmic interpretive dance with floating hearts and glowing diagrams. She frowned and tapped a few buttons, making the holograms spin again. This time, one of the stick figures was upside down, and the hearts around them multiplied exponentially. Somewhere in the corner, an alien observer emitted a squeaky giggle, which caused another observer to cover its mouth and wobble with suppressed laughter. The human tried to ignore them, but every glance at their little alien faces made his face heat up further. I just want to clarify, humans have rules. Very strict, very complicated rules. It's not just gestures, or lights, or floating hearts. There's emotion involved. Consent. Timing. Social context. And some awkwardness. The alien girl blinked rapidly and leaned even closer, her head tilting at an impossible angle. Rules! Yes. I must learn the rules. This is crucial. She gestured wildly, making the holographic hearts spiral even faster, which somehow triggered the device to emit a soft, pulsing light and a low hum that vibrated through the floor. The human stumbled backward, tripping over a stray cord. Crucial? You think this is crucial? This is chaos. It's chaos. You cannot just... Yes, she interrupted excitedly, fidgeting as her multiple hands flitted in the air. Chaos is informative. Observation of human reactions to chaos is highly scientific. Very valuable. Must continue. He pinched the bridge of his nose, feeling the beginnings of a migraine. This is not observation. This is a public display of, forget it. Just, please hypothetically observe. No actual touching. No gestures beyond polite handshakes. The alien girl's eyes widened, and she fidgeted even more, bouncing slightly on her toes, or whatever the alien equivalent of toes were. Hypothetical only? That limits learning slightly. But acceptable. Perhaps subtle gestures, illustrative, but not mandatory? He groaned audibly. Subtle gestures. That's exactly the problem. I have no idea what subtle means in alien physics. Meanwhile, a holographic projection of Earth humans attempting to kiss had been accidentally triggered by the alien girl's fidgeting. The figures floated in midair, arms flailing, hearts spinning, and exaggerated sound effects of smooching echoed through the chamber. The human's face burned red. No! Turn that off. That is not accurate. Humans do not, oh gods, everyone is watching. The alien girl tilted her head in fascination. It appears very expressive. Humans express affection, audibly? Physically? Fascinating. Must record this. She waved her device again, causing more diagrams to spin, some even floating toward the human, who ducked instinctively. Record? No! Don't record me! This is not educational. A small group of alien observers squealed in laughter, pointing with their fingers, or whatever appendages they used to point. Their muffled chortle sounded like a mix between bells and squeaky toys. The human's panic only intensified. Despite his terror, something strange began to happen. He found himself laughing nervously at her earnestness. She was so adorably determined to understand, so utterly unaware of how overwhelming she was, that he couldn't help but soften. Every fidget, every twitch of her fingers, every awkward tilt of her head pulled at some hidden corner of his heart. He caught himself thinking, she's completely oblivious, and somehow, I kind of like it. The alien girl noticed the change in his expression. She paused mid-fidget, her multicolored eyes widening in curiosity. You are smiling? This is unusual. Humans do not smile during chaos? He waved his hands frantically. It's not just chaos. It's you. You're fascinating. And terrifying. And cute. But mostly terrifying. Definitely terrifying. Her response was to blush, an intense, shimmering glow spreading across her cheeks. Her fidgeting intensified, but in a way that now seemed less panicked and more shy. Cute? I am cute? Yes, he said, almost before he realized it. You're very cute. But please, hypothetically, stop spinning the holograms. She tilted her head, considering this, and then her lips curved into a small, shy smile. The glowing diagrams finally slowed and hovered silently. The observers exchanged quiet giggles at the still flustered human, who was now blushing nearly as much as she was. It was in that brief pause, in the soft glow of floating diagrams and humming devices, that the first real connection began to form. The panic had not vanished, and the chaos was far from over, but there was something undeniably magnetic about the little alien girl. Something that made him forget, if only for a moment, that he had been on the verge of an interstellar embarrassment of epic proportions. And so, despite the fidgeting, the misfires, the floating hearts, and the endless misunderstandings, the stage was set for an increasingly absurd, increasingly romantic, and catastrophically funny journey into cultural exchange, human embarrassment, and alien curiosity. The human barely had time to settle before the alien girl declared, with the most earnest determination, that it was time to continue the conception study. He froze mid-breath, hard hammering, as she gestured toward a corner of the chamber he hadn't even noticed before. It was a small experimental room filled with glowing alien plants, gently humming instruments, and a peculiar platform that pulsed in time with an odd, low-frequency vibration. Somewhere along the way, a holographic projection of a starry night had appeared, spinning lazily above them. The whole setup looked like a combination of a laboratory, a dance floor, and a romantic comedy set in zero gravity. I must proceed, she said, fidgeting nervously. Her fingers twitched, her eyes shimmered, and she leaned forward slightly, as if urging him to understand that this was crucial for science. The human gulped and waved his hands frantically. Wait! Hold on. Just no touching. No, anything that could, oh, never mind. Just stay back. Her head tilted, eyes wide with curiosity. Stay back? But observation requires proximity. Subtle proximity. Minimal, but informative. He groaned. Minimal proximity. That's precisely what terrifies me. Minimal can mean anything in alien physics. She ignored his protests and began setting up her devices. A small orb floated up, emitting a soft glow, while another panel projected moving diagrams of human social interactions. The human leaned over, trying to adjust it, but accidentally triggered an interactive mode. Suddenly, the projections morphed into holographic stick figures demonstrating increasingly bizarre courtship behaviors. One figure attempted what looked like a moonwalk while another spun upside down with a heart floating above it. The human's face burned red. No! Stop! Absolutely not! Humans do not do this! He shouted, ducking as a holographic figure drifted toward his face. The alien girl blinked, intrigued. It appears expressive. Humans express affection physically and audibly? Fascinating. Must continue observation. He pinched the bridge of his nose. Observation, yes. Chaos, no. Do not call this observation. In the background, the alien observers were barely containing their laughter. One squeaked, the sound resembling a mix between a bell and a squeaky toy, while another's eyes glowed in amusement. The human could feel the weight of their silent mockery, making him even more flustered. I can explain human rituals, he said, pacing, gesturing wildly, and accidentally knocking a small device off the platform. It clattered loudly, releasing a puff of harmless glowing powder that coated both of them. He waved his hands, trying to disperse it, but only succeeded in creating a mini whirlwind of glittering particles. The alien girl blinked and then giggled, a soft, high-pitched sound that made his chest tighten for reasons he didn't entirely understand. You find this funny? He asked, still flustered, brushing glowing powder off his shoulders. She nodded, her cheeks glowing faintly. Curiosity, amusement, yes. Humans are complicated. I enjoy learning this way. Her fidgeting increased, but now it had a different quality, less panic, more shy energy. She leaned closer to adjust a floating panel, and for a brief moment, their fingers brushed. The human froze, his mind short-circuiting at the electric shock of something that was completely innocent in context, but entirely overwhelming in effect. Hypothetical! Totally hypothetical! He thought, attempting to regain composure. No touching! Just air touching! The alien girl tilted her head again, clearly intrigued by his flustered state. Air touching, interesting. Does this mean something in human study? Yes. It means nothing. Absolutely nothing. Stop analyzing me. But she didn't stop. She floated closer, her hands fluttering as if mimicking some subtle human gesture he couldn't quite recognize. Every motion, every fidget, every shy glance seemed designed to make his heart rate spike. Despite himself, he found his panic mingling with a strange warmth. He had come here to observe aliens. Instead, he was embroiled in a cosmic disaster of misinterpretation, and he couldn't stop noticing how ridiculously adorable she was. Then came the next disaster, one of the devices she had activated, he had no idea which, started pulsing more intensely. The glowing plants vibrated, the platform's hum grew louder, and a holographic figure shot toward them, spinning like a child on a merry-go-round. The human ducked and stumbled, sending another device sliding across the floor. The alien girl squeaked in alarm, her fidgeting going into overdrive, and in her panic, she reached out to steady herself, accidentally nudging him into a heap of glowing powder and floating diagrams. They ended up tangled together, limbs awkwardly overlapping, surrounded by spinning stick figures and pulsing light. The human's face was beet red. The alien girl blinked up at him, eyes wide and sparkling, fidgeting in a way that now seemed more shy than frantic. I think we may have miscalculated, he said weakly, trying to disentangle himself while secretly noticing how close they were. Her response was a small, almost imperceptible laugh. Perhaps observation is highly effective. And in that ridiculous, chaotic, glowing mess of devices, holograms, and alien powder, something undeniable happened, the first spark of real connection. The human realized that amid the panic, the misunderstandings, and the embarrassment, he genuinely liked her. She was messy, she was confusing, she was chaotic, but she was also the most fascinating being he had ever met. Somewhere in the corner, the alien observers continued to giggle, but now their laughter seemed less like mockery and more like commentary on a cosmic romance that had begun entirely by accident. And so, amid the vibrating platforms, pulsing holograms, and flustered gestures, the stage was set for the inevitable: more misunderstandings, more chaos, and perhaps, if they survived it, the beginnings of a very unusual romance. After what felt like an eternity of spinning holograms, vibrating platforms, and floating stick figures, the human finally slumped onto a nearby bench, glowing powder still dusting his hair and shoulders. His chest heaved as he tried to convince himself that he was not going to spontaneously combust from a combination of embarrassment and awe. The alien girl hovered nearby, fidgeting with her device, her multicolored eyes reflecting the soft ambient light. She seemed uncertain. Tentatively she approached, her movements cautious but deliberate, like a cat stepping onto a new surface. I believe I may have misunderstood the full scope of human rituals, she admitted quietly, her fingers twitching nervously. Yes, the human said, exhaling in relief. That would be a massive understatement. Humans are complicated, and reproduction, well, it's not a science experiment. Not like whatever you were trying. Her expression shifted from confusion to realization, a faint blush spreading across her glowing cheeks. Oh, I see. I interpreted the term conceived literally. I did not account for human emotion, or privacy, or social context. I apologize if my actions caused distress. He shook his head, trying not to laugh at how genuinely earnest she sounded. No, it's fine. I mean, it's not fine, obviously, but it's understandable. You didn't know. Humans are confusing even to other humans sometimes. She tilted her head, fidgeting, her hands fluttering slightly as if she didn't quite know where to put them. So, I do not need direct participation? Exactly, he said, trying to remain calm while secretly noticing how adorable her shy movements were. Observation is enough. Hypothetical participation is enough. Anything else just leads to chaos. Her eyes widened, a soft hum escaping her throat that sounded almost like a purr of relief. Chaos, undesirable. Noted. Observation only. Safe. Informative. Acceptable. For a moment, silence fell over the chamber. The holograms floated harmlessly, the devices hummed quietly, and the vibrating platforms had powered down. The alien observers in the corner exchanged amused glances, though their giggles were softer now, more like a commentary on the resolution of the day's events. The human allowed himself a small, nervous smile. You know, he said, brushing a speck of glowing powder off his shoulder, you are really difficult to stay frustrated with. You're fascinating. And cute. And maybe a little terrifying, but in a good way. The alien girl froze, fidgeting intensely. Her fingers twitched, her ears, or whatever the alien equivalent was, tilted forward slightly. Cute? Fascinating? Terrifying in good way? These are positive attributes? Yes, he said, a hint of laughter in his voice. Definitely positive. Mostly positive. Very positive. A faint glow spread across her cheeks as she fidgeted even more, but this time it was shy, almost endearing. I see. I am glad. Your assessment encourages me. Encourages learning, interaction, further study. He chuckled softly. You don't need encouragement. You just need to survive observing humans without accidentally summoning a chaos vortex. She blinked, then laughed, a light, airy sound that made his chest tighten pleasantly. Chaos vortex, amusing. Observation, informative. Must remember. She paused, fidgeting again. I enjoy being near you. He froze, hard hammering. Did she just say that? You enjoy being near me? He asked, trying to mask the excitement in his voice. Yes, she admitted, eyes shimmering. Despite confusion, despite chaos. I enjoy near presence. The human's lips curved into a shy, relieved smile. I enjoyed being near you too, he said softly, brushing more glowing powder off his arm. Even if you are a disaster in holographic chaos management. Her fidgeting intensified, but now in a way that seemed more like excitement than anxiety. She floated a little closer, her glowing cheeks nearly matching the soft light of the room. Then, perhaps, further interaction, acceptable? Yes, he said, laughing softly. Absolutely acceptable. Just no more spinning diagrams for a while, okay? She nodded, a small, shy smile curling her lips. Agreed. No spinning, for now. And in that moment, surrounded by the faint hum of alien devices, lingering holograms, and the subtle glow of her skin, a quiet connection blossomed. The human realized that he had come to observe an alien culture, and instead, he had discovered something far more unexpected: affection, understanding, and a spark that neither science nor chaos could fully explain. From the corner, the observers whispered quietly to one another, their squeaky giggles soft and approving. Somewhere, a tiny holographic heart flickered above the two of them before settling into a slow, steady glow. The human glanced at it and smiled, realizing that the entire day's chaos had led to something strangely wonderful. As she fidgeted again, not out of nervousness but out of shy delight, he reached a hand toward hers, hovering it gently in the air. Their fingers brushed, subtly, hypothetically, perfectly, and the room felt just a little warmer, a little calmer, and a little more filled with possibility. Despite all the confusion, the chaos, and the near catastrophes, they had arrived at the same conclusion: sometimes, understanding doesn't require perfection. Sometimes, it just requires presence, laughter, and a willingness to survive the mess together. And in that quiet, glowing chamber, amid floating diagrams and alien devices, they found it, the first, small spark of an interstellar romance that had begun entirely by accident, entirely by chaos, and entirely by curiosity.